Hi, this is Dee with University of San Diego Career Development Center. Welcome to Alumni Zoom Trips, our virtual interview series with USD alumni experts about the current job market and how best to navigate the challenges posed by the COVID-19 health crisis. This program is hosted with the Office of Alumni Relations. Joining me today is Garry Ridge, longtime CEO of WD-40, who holds a master's degree in executive leadership from USD and teaches leadership development at USD's graduate program. His best-selling book with Ken Blanchard, titled Helping People Win at Work, outlines his effective leadership techniques based on trust building, sense of belonging, lifelong learning, coaching, and mentorship. Garry, it's an honor and pleasure to have you with us this morning. Do you mind telling our listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, g'day Dee. It's beautiful. Lovely to be here. A fresh new day for us to move ahead, not move backwards. But yeah, thank you. As you mentioned, I am the CEO and chairman of WD-40. I've been there for 33 years. Very grateful for my learning at USD. In fact, back in 1999, when I did the MSCL program, I was in the first cohort. And a lot of the learning from that is really embedded in the culture at WD-40. And I think we've got 30 or more graduates from WD-40 of the MSCL program now. So it's been a great adventure, and grateful and honored to be with you this morning.
Well, thank you so much. So given that the COVID-19 is in the forefront of everybody's minds these days, what kinds of challenges has the pandemic created for your company, and how are you currently addressing them?
Well, I wouldn't, certainly the word challenge is interesting. I'm going to flip that around a little bit, and I'm going to call them opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't believe you need to waste a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I think has happened is we're developing and using either new leadership muscles or leadership muscles that we hadn't used a lot of that we should be. Things like being able to pivot, having more compassion, empathy, forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we're learning a lot as we've become better virtual leaders. We're learning to virtually socialize. And I think also we're learning to understand the power of calmness. So that's what the COVID virus is doing for us from a leadership standpoint. From a company standpoint, we again have learned to be virtual, and we operate in 176 countries around the world. So the situation is different in every country, every day, or nearly every hour. And linking up globally has been a real advantage for us. Example would be in China. China was, as we know, first into this. China's about 70% back on track right now. We have 65 people based in Shanghai. They're back. Shanghai is the only office in the world now, WD-40, that's actually not working virtually. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this is tough, but we're going to get through it together.
Sure. And just very much related to that, I mean, how do you operate as a leader during this time? And if you were to name, say, 3 top leadership behaviors, what would they be to help other leaders manage a crisis?
Sure. In times of battle, the leader does not leave the bridge of the ship. So how we need to operate as leaders is be there for our people right now. The number one priority we have as a company is the safety and wellness of our tribe members. So the number one thing would be available, be there, be part of it, is really important. Number two is be kind to yourself. We are in some uncharted waters, so we have to get comfortable with ambiguity. We will make mistakes. From that mistake, take a learning moment and share it. And then the third thing I think, which is really, really important, is don't be judgmental. This is not the time to judge. This is the time to affirm. And so affirm confidence would be something that I would say is really important.
Well, thank you so much for that. How do you think the pandemic will affect life in the long term?
Life as we know it has changed.
Mhm.
I'm not smart enough to predict the future,
Mhm.
but we are being exposed to and learning new ways to do things. Some of those we will like a lot, so we will adopt them, adapt them, and embed them into our new style of life. Some of them we won't like, so we'll go back to the old ways. Certainly, as far as business is concerned, um, e-commerce, which has been a growing channel of
Mhm.
distribution and product availability, is being embraced by a lot more people than ever before. I was reading an article the other day where they were talking about baby boomers who were not really that, that aligned with e-commerce. They're being forced into it now. Maybe some of them will like it. So life will be different. Some of the fun things that I've really enjoyed is we've been holding virtual happy hours, which has been really great. And in fact, I've been holding them with family. I'm originally from Australia, as you know, Dee.
Mhm.
I've been here in the US since 1994. But I've been holding virtual happy hours with family and my mates that I hadn't seen for a long, long time. And they can be pretty hard on you.
I can imagine, but it's wonderful that you're tech savvy and have shifted your operating and your operations to this virtual climate so fast. And in again related to that, how do you balance the needs of your employees, your suppliers, your customers, and other stakeholders in such an uncertain and evolving time?
I think what is really important here is being focused and deliberate. We can't do it all. So we should have, a list of what is really important. It's a bit like what's important and what's urgent,
Mhm.
and making sure that, we only have a certain amount of time, talent, treasure, and technology, and none of them are abundant. So focus is so important. Being deliberate is so important. As I said, we have three things. I shared with you the first one. We have three things that we focus on every day. The first one is the safety and well-being of our tribe. The second one is staying connected with and servicing our customers as we can and supporting our vendor partners. And the third one is maintaining our business infrastructure so that we're ready to thrive and soar like eagles when we come out of this.
Mhm.
So those are the we need to do to ensure that we stay on track. This is not a time for panic. This is calm, deliberate, um, hand on the tiller, steady as she goes, doing what you need to do, and communicate always and always. You cannot over communicate with your tribe, as we call them, or your employees and friends at this time. I think we should have changed. We should have called it social distancing. We should have called it physical distancing and social connecting.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And I remember when I first met you at your office, you had mentioned your leadership philosophy based on values plus behavior times consistency, and that was incredibly empowering and inspiring to me. Would you mind sharing what that is with our listeners?
Yeah, that's how our, if you will, algorithm for culture. And how do we build a strong culture? And we say culture equals, and the equal sign really means happens when,
Mhm.
parentheses, values plus behavior, close parentheses, times
Mhm.
consistency. So we have a set of enduring, clear values that allow set people free and keep them safe. We have a system of with a behavior where we really embrace no lying, no faking, no hiding.
Mhm.
We want to be true to our people and to be brave enough and have enough courage to be able to help them redirect behavior that is not going to build our culture. But more importantly, with those two things, it's a 24/7 behavioral, consistent approach to doing it. It's perpetual in nature.
Mhm. Thanks for sharing that. And Garry, what would your advice be to our graduating seniors who are facing this, incredibly volatile and uncertain job market? What would your advice be for them?
This too will pass. The world is a great place, and we'll get through this. So keep sharpening your saw, get ready, um, keep making contacts, virtual networking. This is not a time to not have those leadership muscles ready to go to work, and there will be huge opportunities when we come out of this. I am very confident of that. Uh, the, the the US economy was in reasonable shape when we went into this. The Fed has put lots of liquidity into the market. Businesses are acting responsibly. And I think you graduating seniors are going to go into a business environment that is a little more caring, a little more sharing, has a little more empathy and a little more understanding, is much more aligned to learning than ever before. Because if we are smart as leaders, we'll learn from this. And I think we can.
Thanks for that inspirational message. So just flex those little, patience muscles, right? And just, yeah. And what does a typical work day look like for you? I know things are quite different, in the past few weeks, but what does a
Yeah.
typical day look like for Garry Ridge?
Yeah, that word typical is interesting. But right now, I'm working from my home office. Here I am. I'm normally up around 4:30 in the morning, and I get my cup of tea and come up and clear what I have to clear, communicating with our people in Europe, because it's early there, getting up to date with what's important for the day. Now I check my WebEx calendar because there's probably 5 or 6 hours of WebEx communication going on. In between that, a little time of solace, some time to relax, a little time to exercise, play with the dog, and enjoy the fact that I'm grateful that I actually woke up this morning. I'm pretty happy about that.
Wonderful. Um, in your opinion, what are keys to success in your field?
My field of?
Your field of, let's say, business and executive management.
Oh, okay. Well, for those who are going to lead in a business, number one is it's all about the people. My learning over time is that I am consciously incompetent, and in most cases, I'm probably wrong and roughly right. But what is really great is that I do value people. So number one is you can't do it alone. It's not about you. Don't let that ego eat your empathy. So you need the people around you. When you get them, love them up and treat them with respect and dignity, and they'll go to work and they'll respect the fact that the culture is strong and whatever. Number two is you've got to have a clear set of values. What do you stand for? And then you've got to have a clear strategy. You've got to execute well and never, ever, ever, ever stop learning.
Thank you so much. Very much related to the theme of learning. What are, top 3 online resources or well, let's just say resources or books that you can recommend our listeners?
The first book I would recommend everybody read is Everything You Need to Know You Learned in Kindergarten, written by Robert Fulghum many, many years ago. And it talks about, say please and thank you, pick up after yourself, clean up your mess. There's some great stories in there. I was just reminded this morning when I was reading a HBR article that actually you and I know of, about Shackleton. And I was remembering Shackleton's Way. What a great leadership book that is. And then there's a bunch of others. In fact, if people go to my website, which is www.thelearningmoment.net, I have a page on there of book recommendations that people, could look at that I put together. And so I love Simon Sinek's work, his latest book, The Infinite Game, Start With Why, Leaders Eat Last. There's a great book that just came out called Leadership is Gratitude, written by Chester Elton, which is really fabulous. Anyhow, there's a whole list of them on there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those recommendations. And what is something that you have learned very late in life that you wish you knew much earlier?
The power of 3 words, I don't know. Those 3 words are very powerful. I don't know. And getting comfortable with those 3 words, I don't know. Because that allows me to learn and to have others help us be better.
And my last question is, what are the skills for the future of work, and how do you think you can build them?
Well, I think we're going to learn new skills now during what we're going through, but certainly you need to have those core leadership skills. I don't think they've changed. Be a servant leader. Leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of the people in your charge. And then, of course, we're going to have to get comfortable with all these new tools, the technology side of it, the difference of how people acquire products and how we use our infrastructures and distribution systems. But at the end of the day, servant leadership is the way to go. And servant leadership is not about the prisoners running the prison. It's about us making sure that we're creating an environment where people can step into the best version of their personal self every day. That's the job of a leader.
Garry, thank you so much for this incredible interview. It's always a pleasure and an honor to see you, to speak with you. Thank you for sharing your time with our listeners this morning.
My pleasure.